You go.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Opportunity Zone. My name is Nate Armstrong. I'm here with my co-host and partner, Mr. Chris Lavin. Chris, how you doing?
Good, man. How's everybody doing today?
Good. Hey, we are broadcasting live right now. There's some really interesting things heating up right now. Number one, you have the boxing match that got started by the Trump administration with the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell. It just heated up a lot. Like literally, there are public calls for firing happening right now, and the stock market's going nuts. We're going to tear into that. We're going to tear into what that means for interest rates and what that means for investments during this show as well. We're also going to go through the top 10 list for the hottest markets and the top 10 list for the coldest markets, or the markets that are about to become the most cold. Okay, so all of that and more in today's Opportunity Zone. Before we dive into the lessons, content, and whatnot, I want to get through and talk about one Bible lesson. And we just came off of one of the holiest celebrations ever. And it's kind of timing is perfect for this, because right now we've got a lot of uncertainty out there. We've got a lot of fear. The stock market, especially, people are watching their retirement accounts be gambled, kind of like a roller coaster ride. And so this Bible lesson is from Philippians 4:6. And it goes like this: don't be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds. Chris, that's Philippians 4:6. Can you expand on that for us?
Yeah. So one thing that I know for certain is that if you live your life seeking godly counsel, pray and meditate about the things that the decisions you're making, the peace of God that this verse talks about is real. We live our lives in faith. As a result of living in that faith and seeking godly counsel, we have no fear. We know, we pray, we meditate, we listen to God, what God is telling us, and those are the decisions we make moving forward. And while things sometimes initially don't seem like they're all rosy and pleasant, I know one thing for a fact: nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. So if I'm seeking counsel, my faith is strong. I don't have fear. I don't get worried. That's just a fact of the way that we operate our business. And as a result, we've been blessed over and over and over and over again. And one of the blessings is to just be able to stand here and share that very message with you folks.
Philippians 4:6. So if anyone's going through some uncertainty right now, let that anxiousness go away. Give it up to God.
Amen.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, I'm going to get into our content for today. So this whole bit about Trump going back and forth with Fed chairman, what happened with interest rates, all that and more. Before I go there, I'm going to share the deal that we have. This is the Opportunity Zone. A lot of people have been asking for an opportunity, and so we're going to share it quick. So this property is Green Bay, Wisconsin. If you are an accredited investor and you're looking for a potential deal to invest in, pay attention to this one. So Green Bay, Wisconsin, right on the mouth of Lake Michigan, one of the Great Lakes. They often call Wisconsin the third coast because it's got so much water line in it. But you've got Lake Michigan and you've got a ton of interior lakes. This property sits right on the water. Beautiful building. We stole it. Let me tell you why. Chris, you're welcome to jump in on this too, but the seller on this one, unfortunately, the equity side of it, there's a terminal situation.
Correct.
And amputated leg and a little bit worse than that. We won't get into all the details here, but there's a reason that the transfer is happening for less than the seller paid for it. We're stepping into this deal right now.
Yes, 2 years ago, they bought it for 16.2. We're 16.3, I apologize. And we're picking it up for 15.8. And yeah, there's a good reason for it. But listen, this is one of those situations. We are helping this guy out because we're able to act quickly, go in and execute and make this deal happen. He was involved with somebody else. They drug him out for 6 months, couldn't make it happen. Now his back's against the wall. So we're going in there, we're saving him, and we're getting a great asset for our investors.
when we look at assets like this to invest in, we've been doing this for a long time, almost 2 decades in the business. And what makes the best profits for us and for our investors is when we find a market that has increasing jobs and increasing population. And you might think, well, hey, Green Bay, isn't that a cold place? Aren't people leaving there? And if you get into the actual data on it, it's actually the opposite. Right now, Green Bay got #1 place in America for best places to live. And this is on a short list with like Naples, Florida. In addition to this, not only being #1 in the country, in addition to this, you've got more wealthy people moving to Green Bay, Wisconsin. They ranked #2 in the country for most amount of wealthy people moving to the city. The article's taking a minute to pop up, but I'll show you in a second. What they did is they conducted this nationwide study looking to see, let me scroll all the way to the top right here. #1 was Palm Bay, #2 is Green Bay. But what they conducted a nationwide study looking at folks that were moving that made high income. And in this particular city, Green Bay, they took #2 in the country. For people making 200K or more, you've got a bunch of them that have moved into Green Bay. You got jobs galore. You've got places like Georgia Pacific that just did a $550 million expansion into this place. That Georgia Pacific facility is about 6 minutes from our property. You're hosting right now, those of you that are NFL fans, you're probably seeing the news. You're probably seeing Green Bay all over it because you've got 300,000 fans, NFL fans that have come to Green Bay to watch the NFL draft live in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So in addition to the jobs, the population growth, everything that's going on in that area, this will be a killer home run asset for us. So if you're looking to potentially invest in something, or you just want to get to know us, this is a good chance for it. I'm going to ask our team if you could please put the link in the chat. What that link will do, ladies and gentlemen, is if you click on it, you can actually book a call with our team and we can give you the offering memorandum. We can give you the details. We can give you the financials, anything and everything about the property. We'll go through it with you on a quick 15-minute phone call. So that link's in the chat for you. If you don't see the link and you're following us online, just put the word link in the comments, LINK, and we'll send it over to you in a private message. Cool. Chris, you ready for the news?
Sure, let's do this.
All right.
Because I haven't had a heart attack yet today.
No heart attacks yet, but your blood's going to boil on some of this. This one, you'll actually be a little bit more relieved, Chris, because there's been this hype about the Sun Belt for a long time. Like people are moving there, people are moving there. And what the data is showing now in April 2025 is that people are actually moving to the Midwest.
Correct.
Cities like Columbus, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Louisville, Kentucky, where we hold assets now, Green Bay, Wisconsin. What's going on with this, and how does population migration like this affect our investments?
Well, it's a supply and demand thing, right? So you can't build multifamily housing or even single family housing overnight. You need a length of time. So as these migration patterns starts to happen, there's more people looking for the same number of residents to live in. Supply and demand. The more there's a demand, the supply gets depleted. Guess what? The prices and the cost of rent go up. We all know as investors that the basis of a commercial piece of property or multifamily piece of property is their net operating income. The net operating income is directly linked to the amount of rent you can charge. So the higher the rents, the more value the property is, and uppity up it goes. And that gives us two things. On our business plans, we can either execute a sale with a price going up, make more profits, or we can refi at a higher dollar amount with the same LTV.
So basically, when people are moving to an area, is it fair if I say this in summary? People move to an area, you're going to potentially charge more rent.
Correct.
Which means more net income.
Correct.
Which means higher value.
Correct.
If people are leaving, it's the opposite. Your value drops.
Correct, because rents have to come down to, because you want to bring in the people that are still there. So you have to be the cheapest price in town or the best value.
So I'm going to put up a chart, Chris. This is the coldest markets in the country.
Yeah, this always freaks me out.
This is the markets where things are cooling down the fastest. So if you're like, oh my goodness, where should I invest? Where shouldn't I invest? Pay attention to these markets right here. You've got more than half of them on Florida right now.
Yep.
Cape Coral is leading the way.
Yep.
You've got Sarasota, Florida. You got basically the west coast of Florida leading the way from Tampa down to just north of Naples.
I happen to believe that I know for a fact that Florida is a unicorn when it comes to real estate. Not all of the rules generally apply to Florida, but you'll notice that most of these cities are on the west coast of Florida, or at least at the top. We've got some Winter Haven and Daytona, which is on the east coast. But I believe that's driven by two things. One is cost of insurance, the recent number of hurricanes over the past 5 years that have devastated the area, right? All of those things going on. So the cost of insurance is going up, so it makes it less and less affordable to acquire those assets and to just live there. So people are leaving. Plus, with the government getting out of insurance, pushing everybody back to private insurance, that's also driving the cost of insurance up, therefore driving the cost of living up. I happen to believe that, well, I'm an optimist and I live in Florida, that's going to sway and it's going to change. I just know that my South Florida is not on that list, and that's all I'm really happy about.
Okay, I'll take the brunt of it. I still have property in Cape Coral, Florida. So, but it is what it is. It's okay. These things,
It's cyclical.
Yeah. I remember I had a duplex up in St. Paul, Minnesota, and everyone kept saying, oh, you have to sell. You have to sell. The market's cooling off. And I held it.
Yeah.
And guess what? My rents went up, and they went up again, and they went up again. And then the value started to come up.
Yeah.
And fast forward over a decade, the property doubled in value. So these things can be cyclical. And well, speaking of which, let's talk about the 10 top hottest markets in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, what's the first thing that you saw on this chart when you saw these hot markets?
I like the Northeast. Why? Who wants, that's insane. That completely blew my mind. But then we got to take a lot into account, right? One of the things that we have to take into account was the mass exodus during COVID, right? Everybody left, they're getting away from COVID, they're moving to Florida, blah, 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 blah. I think that we're seeing some of that as a rebound, going back to Connecticut and New York and all of those places. I think some of this is a rebound effect as a result of people leaving. And now they realize they've been gone for 3 or 4 years. They miss their family. They're going back. I really believe that. And isn't it make sense that everybody ran to Florida? And that's when, 2 years ago, the Florida was up and the Northeast was down. And now it's going the other way. I think there's a direct correlation in that.
Yeah, you got some leveling off happening now.
Yeah.
So some of these cities and states, Chris, I know you wouldn't invest and you wouldn't let us put company dollar or investor dollars there.
No.
So although there's a bunch up in the Northeast, why don't we invest in some of the states?
Rent control. They are biased towards the tenants, right? There's a lot of things that states do. I watched them destroy businesses as a result of rent control. A couple weeks ago we featured that property. It was like, it sold for $8 million a couple of years ago.
This is a New York property. Yep. This is important, guys.
New York property where rent control was enacted. It sold for like $8 million a couple of years ago. And then like last year it sold for $478,000. Same property. But because the owner was not allowed to operate, they couldn't do anything with it. The value fell through the floor. Terrible, terrible stuff going on. So we don't go to those states.
Yeah. So we stick to landlord-friendly states is the easiest way to say it. So I won't go all political on it, but states that we know we can take $1 from our investors and safely invest it and get predictable returns.
Yeah.
That's where we want to be. Sometimes people ask us, well, hey, what about Wisconsin? Isn't that kind of in the middle? And the thing with Wisconsin is they actually have some of the best landlord laws in the country.
Yeah.
Despite some of their political kind of being in the middle. From a landlord perspective, we've owned literally hundreds of buildings in that state. And from a landlord perspective, if you have a vagrant, let's just say, move into your property, you don't have to file an eviction like California. Instead, you call the sheriff. They're out the same day, like bam. So Wisconsin's very, very friendly towards landlord investors. Okay, Chris, I got to change gears on us.
Let's do it.
The stock market is doing something that is causing a lot of fear, uncertainty. What the heck?
Anger. How about anger? How about people that get their money tied up in 401ks or tied up in the market and crashing?
What is going on? Stocks tumble, dollar hits 3-year low, Trump bashes Powell. Like, what is this boxing match happening? Why are stocks doing this?
This is the same story, same song we were singing a couple weeks ago. I warned about this. I warned about this a couple months ago. Trump came out and he needed to deliver the message he needed to deliver. His plan is sound. His delivery is horrible. He went out and stuck his chest out against Jerome Powell, right? Who is as egotistical as he is, and who Trump has no control over, and said, "You're going to lower rates, and I'm going to make this happen." And, rah, 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 rah. And Jerome Powell was like, "Yes, Mr. President, sure thing." And we saw what happened. Jerome Powell drew a line in the sand. Trump drew a line in the sand. They're not coming to terms. They're not meeting each other. They're bashing and fighting, and we are suffering as American people because the Fed is private. It is not controlled by the government in any way, shape, or form. Trump can't tell him what to do. The more he does, the more Jerome Powell laughs. And we are suffering and suffering and suffering. And this is just ridiculous. And the scary thing is, I don't see any way out. Who's going to back down, right? The only way I can see that this ever gets any better, and I really have no opinion on the matter, but the only way I ever see this getting any better is if Jerome Powell can take the tact of, you know what, Mr. President, I'm going to save the country by going in here and lowering the rates, lowering interest rates, so that I can save the country from you. That's the only way out of this. And I've thought about this long and hard.
And it's interesting you say that, Chris, because they just came out of their emergency closed door meeting. And here's what the insiders are saying.
Yeah.
Interest rate cuts are unlikely. And so what that means is that, well, here's where he did say they could be cut. If we start to see surging unemployment, which is not happening.
Nope.
Okay. Or if we start to see markets in free fall, it's not happening.
Correct.
Well, stock market a little bit, but we're not talking about the market as a whole. And so, but in the time being, he's saying, well, inflation might creep up because of this trade war. So they're not backing down right now. Interest rates are stuck. So for the average investor, rates are not looking more favorable in the near term. Chris, maybe you can talk for a second about, like, you're negotiating with lenders right now.
Yeah.
You just got an amazing offer on the table for a beautiful 80-unit building that we're purchasing. What are the lender conversations looking like for you? Because I know your rate was about a full 1%, maybe even 2% lower than a lot of people would pay.
So listen, and I don't mean to sound egotistical in any way, shape, or form, but as a result of years of hard work, as a result of being good operators, sticking to our word, and what I believe, doing God's will on this earth, the lenders that we deal with consider us a top tier status. So even though we've got all this rates and craziness going on, I'm actually getting rates at 5.2% for our newest acquisition. That's not common, right? Most people are up in 6.5%, 7% in these acquisitions and in this financing that's going on right now. Why is that important? So one of the deals, that the Green Bay deal that we're working on, you save that on an $11 million loan, 1% on $11.1 million loan is $110,000 a year. $110,000 a year. Over the course of owning that property for 4 or 5 years, as we execute the business plan, that's $500,000. For those of you that are paying attention, that's $500,000 that goes into our investors' pockets. So even though this is all going crazy, we are able to negotiate and go in at deals that other people can't seem to make work, right? Because we can make things cash flow because we got those better rates and better tie down. And again, this is because of the amount of work that we put into our properties, the amount of effort that we put into doing what we do. And the reality is, it's because that we truly care about people in this world, and we're trying to make a positive impact.
Cool. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, that is the wrap for today. There's more headlines that are going to be coming out again next week. Join us again for the Opportunity Zone, same time, same place. Chris, anything you want to say to wrap up today?
Listen, I've learned that being a good steward of what God has provided me has doubled and tripled and quadrupled my blessings. So I ask that you take a walk in faith and just please be a good steward of the blessings that God's bestowed you, and try to affect the world in a positive place. And sometimes in a day, no matter how bad things can get, even a smile, a pleasant and kind smile or kind word to somebody else has a huge impact on their life. Remember that. God bless.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.
See you next week. Bye.